Nadia is maybe a little under the weather today. She has her voice is off, so it's going to sound maybe like she's a smoker, but she's not.
I am not. I just want to clear the air of all the smoke.
Oh my God.
I'm not a smoker.
I'm not, yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, glad you're here. Our topic today is something I love discussing, and I'm going to be very blunt on this one. Hopefully, a lot of people listening can use this to develop some self-awareness, but we're going to talk about concepts like motivation, and we'll even maybe go a little bit into finding your passion or what you're passionate about. Being a little facetious there. I'll get back to that. But we're going to talk about my thoughts on quote unquote motivation and another topic called momentum, because I don't really believe in being motivated. And I'll explain that this way. First of all, Nadia, you probably have a lot of things you enjoy doing, hobbies. What are they?
I like going to the gym. I like finding new restaurants. I like spending time with my family. I'm always looking for new hobbies. Okay. I'll leave it at that.
Well, I like hobbies, but generally I've learned in my life, there's not really a ton of things I internally always motivated to do except sit around and do nothing. I love doing that.
I do love doing that too. It's pretty good.
I never get tired of sitting around watching like NFL or college football. It doesn't get old. And I'll generally do it anytime I can. However, my point is, if I went back through my life and I looked at, whether it be doing well in school or getting in shape or doing something really challenging like the summer program we both did in Southwestern, I don't believe in being motivated. I believe in the power of momentum. Even reading a book. I remember reading, have you ever read Gone with the Wind?
No, I've seen the
Southern
movie,
Girl,
though.
you should have. Yeah. It's a great book. It's 1,000 pages. And I remember thinking, I don't want to read this. And after 50 pages, I was like, this is the greatest book ever. I knocked it out in like 3 days. That's a small thing about the power of momentum. Mm-hmm. But I go around and I talk to lots of college students from different campuses, and two things that just drive me nuts are I'll hear people that sometimes worked in our summer program that will say, well, I was like doing, it's a 12-week intensive program, a sales and leadership program, but they'll say I was, doing well the first 5 weeks, but then I just lost motivation. And that's nonsense. Or I'll talk to college students and basically we'll talk about their semester is going poorly, and they'll say, yeah, I'm burnout, or I'm just not motivated. And so we're going to do a little bit of a deep dive into those concepts and why I think they're nonsense. But a little bit of my backstory, being on this earth long enough, it's interesting because I can remember back in my life, I guess what we would call highlight reels, like the greatest accomplishments I had in either school or athletics or, work professionally. And then I can think of serious low points. For example, you probably can't tell from looking at me now, but I used to be 80 pounds heavier than I am now. Would you believe that? Maybe you did if you saw me on stage, 2 years ago. But my point being is that was probably the lowest physical, from a physical fitness place I ever had been. But in high school, I was a finely tuned athlete. Now I'm back in good shape. But I guess the point is, which one of those is the real me? I think sometimes people are basically trying to judge who they are based off how they feel, and feeling, doesn't dictate action. I think action dictates feeling. And so there's very few things that are motivating in the very beginning of doing them. When I was 80 pounds overweight, working out that first week, I was not motivated one bit. I think most people understand that analogy. After you do it for about 3 weeks, it changes quickly and you start to see progress and you love it. I think the same is true for school. If somebody attends all their classes, college is not that hard. And it actually is fun and you feel good about yourself. But if you skip a lot of classes the first couple of weeks of the semester, you get behind, you start feeling emotionally drained, you start feeling guilty. And that's what causes this quote unquote feeling of burnout. It's where you're constantly trying to reset and get on track. How am I doing so far?
Pretty good.
Yeah? You feeling it? Okay. So my point is, how you feel about something is almost irrelevant if you have not gotten started and if you've not actually built some momentum. Okay. Once you actually build some momentum, your motivation level, your internal motivation level will change dramatically. Everything I've ever done in life, at the very beginning, I've not felt like even starting, but about 3-4 weeks later, if I dive in and actually do it, I not only am extremely quote unquote motivated, but I enjoy it and it actually can become fun. And that's the thing that basically I feel like people miss. They're going around the world or this in their life trying to find something that they like or that they're passionate about. The reality is, if you put your head down and actually get started on something and actually decide to do it and do well at it, that will naturally happen, and you'll start liking a lot of things, and your motivation level will be super high. What do you think?
Yeah. I think a big part of that, something I was thinking while you were saying that, because I've heard you talk about this before, and
yeah, I love it.
I mean, it's something I've used. I will hear your voice in my head.
That's scary.
No, it is. It's really scary. Honestly, I shudder. A big part of people making the excuses and feeling the burnout and this and that is because they can't let go of the guilt of being like, oh, I said I was going to do this and I didn't. And the only reason they're feeling that is because they feel guilty to themselves. So the first step is it not just letting that go.
I'm a little bit older than you, so I sometimes like to use the whole make fun of the current generation. It's like what we all do.
For sure.
Yeah,
totally.
And Gen Zers will do it to their kids or whatever. But yeah, I believe nowadays people seem to have a problem with guilt, and they're uncomfortable with sort of looking in the mirror and just being like, I've been kind of a mess lately, and I need to reset, and just sort of being honest about it. And instead, what they will do, I think this is what you're alluding to, is they will basically find some like, why have I not been going to class or going to the gym? Well, I think it's because I'm not really motivated or interested in this. And so I need to find something that actually, if I could just find something that motivates me, then I'll actually do the work. And yes, I think that's a brilliantly crafted rationalization excuse.
And it's just, honestly, it's not that deep. Like life is not that deep. Like nothing we do genuinely is that deep that we need to look into. If I don't go to the gym, and I've also trained heard your voice in my head, I'm not going to be like, oh my gosh, I have a problem. Like there is something inherently wrong with me because I didn't go to the gym yesterday. Going through that, I think it's something that everybody does go through, that you have to kind of learn how to forgive yourself and let those things go. Exactly.
It's I want to talk about this sort of emotional burnout because it's something you hear a lot in school or college. And 99% of the time, whenever, maybe if somebody was studying astrophysics and they were getting their PhD in that, then I don't know, maybe if you do everything right, you're still, I don't know what that's like, but it's more challenging. But for most people, if I ever meet a college student, and I meet lots of them, and I'll ask how their semester's going, they'll be like, I'm just so burnt out. It's always a result of cutting corners or a break in their schedule. If they go to all their classes and they keep up with the work, and if they basically don't feel guilty from going out during the week, or they feel good about themselves, you do not feel burnout. You feel burnout when you start to cut classes, you get behind, you feel guilty, you have to expend a lot of energy trying to sort of get caught up or feel like you need to catch up. You end up pulling all-nighters, which I've done in college. And the result of it is you are mentally exhausted from what I would call living life in a start, stop kind of mentality where you are having to reset every week.
Yeah.
And the same is true with working out. If you basically just, keep on getting, off track, then you will have to reset. And then eventually somebody will be like, it's just not for me. I've even met people that told me they tried to quit smoking 7 times, but then finally they realized, got to die of something. And that to me is a person that knows they need to quit, but they're just burnt out on trying and failing.
Can you talk about the power of taking time to yourself just for a little bit with no distractions and how that kind of ties in to avoiding the burnout? If you do believe in that.
I do. I believe in, once again, I always believe in resetting. If you basically, cut a corner or you get off track. And once again, as you said, accepting the fact that, okay, I messed up, but it's not that big of a deal.
Let me rephrase my question. Yeah. How would you forgive yourself? How would you go about, what's the process? How do you get over that hump?
For me, it's, and this is the thing I tell a lot of people too, is that you also are never going to be perfect. And I think it's an imperative skill to be an adult in the working world to learn how to reset. Because if you have high goals and you're trying to do a lot of things, you are going to mess up or cut a corner. Or I've never had a perfect week in my career. Every week I feel like I messed up something, and I love every week sort of thinking about what I did well and what I kind of messed up on. And I do like resetting each week and just sort of having a good plan. And you forgive yourself, You come up with a plan and you move on. Versus what happens with some people is, I see this a lot with kids we work with. They come back from the summer and they're excited about doing the Savers program, which is sort of a wake up early, read, workout. And it's great, but it's easy for someone to come back and start the school year and mess that up a little bit. And once they mess it up, it's amazing. They're like, I thought, my schedule's off. And so I can't, they feel guilty, and they almost, the guilt compounds itself rather than forgiving themselves, resetting, coming up with a new plan.
I mean, I think it's about acceptance. Yeah. And I think that's a really hard thing to teach somebody. It's very easy to talk about, accept those things, it's going to be okay. But it really is difficult to teach that.
It is. It does take practice and time and perspective. It takes perspective and understanding that, once again, your actions don't define you. It doesn't mean it's no reflection on what you are good at or what you are interested in. If people took anything from this podcast, I would hope they would be always conscious of what their momentum level is in any activity they're pursuing. And it doesn't matter if it's perfect or not, just that you're aware of it. And if people would stop basically judging their passions or what they're good at or what they feel like doing off of just a feeling, and they instead focused on, let me actually put my head down and try to do this for several weeks, and the feeling will change, then they would get a lot out of this. That would be the one thing I hope people take, is to basically be conscious of the level of momentum you have in your life and everything. And to also be conscious of the fact of, whenever you are emotionally burnt out, is it because of all of a sudden I'm not passionate about something, or is it because I started cutting corners and I am feeling guilty, and I'm letting the guilt compound itself, and I'm trying to come up with a reason as to why I don't feel like doing something.
Yeah, Matt, we've had some really good points, and I think we've covered some really great things. I guess to cap us off, how would you explain the difference between momentum and motivation?
I think motivation is based off a feeling in the moment you have towards something that you're doing or supposed to be doing. And it's simply based off a feeling. And as a result, the feeling will dictate the action you take. And a lot of people, because they don't feel motivated, then they will not take any action. And it's based off of simply that. But momentum is based off of your schedule. And basically, it's momentum of effort put in over time and routine. Therefore, you have a greater sense of motivation. But it's based off of something of substance, which is a schedule. Something concrete, something you've put in, and then over time, your motivation level increases as a result of it, and you have momentum. Once again, I think it's important, if any activity you're approaching, stop thinking about how do I feel about in the moment, and ask yourself, do I actually have momentum based off some substance and actually work that's in this right now? Have I been going to all my classes? Have I been working out on a schedule for 3 weeks? Have I been doing my job? If I'm in a sales job, have I been doing my controllables every day for 3 weeks? If you've been doing those things, it's maybe fair to assess what your level of motivation is. But what you'll find is typically it's super high compared to, before you get started, just this feeling of, do I feel like doing this or not? You think? Good, Cap?
Yeah, that was great. Thank you.
I thought that was good.
Cool.
We go.